You know that feeling.
Yeah.
The one that just hits you, almost physically.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you just got some news, like a new job offer,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in a different city. Or uh, a relationship ends suddenly. A health thing.
Hmm.
Even the kids leaving home.
Yeah. Big
Right,
moments.
1 minute life is, well, it's one way. And the next, the ground just feels, I don't know, wobbly.
Totally wobbly.
And it's such a mix of emotions, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like maybe excitement about what's next, but it's fighting with this deep sadness for what's over.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe just pure, fear.
Oh, absolutely. Fear of the unknown is huge.
These big shifts, whether we choose them or they just happen to us, they change everything. They're life transitions.
They really are. And like you said, it's so much more than just the outside stuff, changing your address, updating LinkedIn, sorting the practical bits.
Right.
They go much deeper. They reshape not just what's around us, but kind of the landscape inside us too.
Exactly. And that internal stuff, that emotional turbulence, that's actually what we're doing a deep dive into today. We've looked at a whole bunch of source articles on career changes, grief, even how our brains handle just not knowing what's next.
Right. Uncertainty.
Yeah. And our mission really is to unpack why these transitions hit us so hard emotionally. And maybe more importantly, explore some ways to, navigate that rough emotional sea without getting completely swamped.
Okay, sounds good. So let's dig into the why. Why do these things shake us up so much?
Yeah. What do the sources say?
Well, they define transitions as these significant shifts that really alter either our day-to-day routine or, and this is key, our sense of who we are, our self-perception.
Ah, okay. So the big ones: changing jobs, moving, divorce, marriage, becoming a parent.
Dealing with illness, loss, yeah. They all demand that we adapt, like fundamentally.
And it's not just personal stuff, is it? I mean, we've all just lived through a huge shared one, right? The pandemic.
That's a perfect example. A massive shared transition that just threw nearly everyone's routine and sense of security out the window all at
We're
once.
probably still processing that one, honestly.
Probably. And interestingly, the material suggests something like half of the big transitions we face are things we actually choose, like deciding to switch careers or move for a new opportunity.
Okay.
And the other half are things that just happen to us, out of our control.
But even the chosen ones, they're not easy.
No, that's what's fascinating. Even something you planned, like that career pivot, it still comes packed with really significant emotional challenges. It's not just about figuring out the logistics.
So why? What's going on there?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, biologically speaking. Our
Yeah.
brains, they're basically hardwired to crave security, predictability,
Yeah.
certainty.
You okay? Like a safety thing.
Exactly. It's a deep evolutionary drive to keep us safe.
Okay.
The brain feels most comfortable, most at peace when it thinks it knows what's coming.
So when you step off that familiar path.
Bam! Your brain's ancient alarm system starts blaring. Danger, unknown territory. It's trying to protect you, right? Conserve energy, anticipate threats. But when it's a life change, that same system just translates into, well, a lot of anxiety and fear.
Because you're moving from the known to the unknown.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's inherently scary for our wiring. It flips that switch that says, warning, uncertainty ahead.
So, okay, the brain's hitting the panic button.
Hmm.
What does that actually feel like? What's the emotional landscape look like during these big changes? It sounds like more than just being a bit stressed out.
Oh, much more. The sources talk about a whole spectrum of really intense feelings. And right at the top, stemming from that brain response, is uncertainty and fear.
Makes sense.
This is a huge one to get a handle on, especially if you're making a big leap, like changing industries entirely.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
You're probably feeling really unsure. Did I make the right call? Am I going to succeed? Do I even know what I'm doing anymore?
Yeah, that feeling of losing your footing.
Yeah.
I read about someone on Reddit, I think. They'd spent years on a pre-med track, then left it. And the feeling wasn't just disappointment. It was like defeat, surrender, like all that hard work was just wasted.
That's heavy.
That is heavy. And the fear of the unknown, it's not necessarily about knowing something bad will happen. It's just, you don't know what will happen.
Right.
But our brains, like you said, often jump to the worst case scenario.
Right.
And tied really closely to this is another really powerful emotion. Loss and grief.
Grief, you mean like when someone dies?
Yes, exactly like that. The sources are quite clear. Leaving anything significant behind: a job, a role, a home, a relationship, even a future you thought you'd have, it involves loss.
Mhm.
And that loss can trigger feelings that are remarkably similar to grieving a death or a major breakup.
Wow. So losing your job or financial security,
Yeah.
letting go of a dream you had, selling the family home. These can all genuinely trigger grief.
Absolutely. And that pre-med story you mentioned, that's grief over losing a specific planned future, professional identity.
Yeah.
Losing a job, especially if your work was like a core part of who you felt you were, it can feel like a part of you has died. That makes so much sense.
And the sources really emphasize it's healthy, it's appropriate to grieve that lost identity, the routines, the relationships, the sense of purpose that went with it.
And there's no set timeline for it, right?
Not at all. Just like grieving a person, grief during a transition. It doesn't follow a schedule. It's incredibly individual. There's no normal timetable.
That's so important to hear because you can feel pressured, I think.
Yeah.
And I imagine with all this uncertainty and loss swirling around, there must be a ton of anxiety and worry too.
Oh, absolutely. It's fertile ground for it. Fear of the unknown, money worries, pressure to perform in a new situation, just figuring out the logistics. It all fuels anxiety.
And it's not just in your head, is it?
No way. It shows up physically. Fatigue, nausea, weird aches and pains, trouble sleeping, weight changes, even getting sick more easily. That's your body responding to the stress and anxiety.
I remember reading something about worry, how we sometimes use it to feel like we're in control. Like if we imagine every bad thing, we won't be caught off guard.
Yes. It's often this misplaced attempt to create certainty where there isn't any. We think worrying helps us predict the future or gives us control.
But it doesn't. Well,
No, chronic worrying just drains your energy, sucks the joy out of the present, and doesn't actually help you predict anything useful. It's like trying to light up a whole dark house with just one tiny flashlight beam. You only see that little spot, you miss everything else, and you wear the battery out fast.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And speaking of feeling capable, transitions can seriously mess with your confidence, can't they?
Big time, yeah. When you start something totally new, or you step away from something where you felt competent, successful, your confidence can just plummet. There was an article, I think, in Forbes where the author went to a marketing event after leaving a big corporate job.
Yeah.
And he suddenly felt this pang of like disenfranchisement.
Yeah.
Because people were naturally drawn to those with the big name company affiliations. You didn't have that anymore.
Right. You're not the expert anymore.
Yeah.
That Reddit person you mentioned, the pre-med one,
Yeah.
they talked about how terrifying it felt. Going from being the person with the answers to suddenly being the one asking all the basic questions. Knowing nothing.
Exactly. That fear of failure, of seeming less relevant, less capable, it's incredibly common when your identity or role shifts.
Okay. So we got uncertainty, fear, loss, grief, anxiety, worry, shaking confidence. Anything else in this lovely emotional cocktail?
Well, rounding it out, there's often this deep well of sadness, regret, and guilt.
Sadness makes sense with the loss.
Yeah, profound sadness is pretty universal in grief. But you might also find yourself dwelling on regrets, things you did or didn't do, or feeling guilty about certain feelings.
Like what?
Like maybe feeling relieved that a difficult situation is over, even though it also involved loss. You can feel guilty about feeling relieved.
Ah, I see. And guilt can come from other places too, right? Like feeling you let people down.
Definitely. Letting down colleagues, your old boss. And then there's that tricky thing called the sunk cost fallacy.
Oh, right. Explain that again.
It's that feeling that because you've already put so much time, effort, or money into something, years of education, building a career path, you feel guilty leaving it. Like it was all wasted.
Like the Reddit person feeling their time and money went up in smoke.
Exactly. That's the sunk cost fallacy biting hard. But as the sources suggest, those skills you gained, the research, the analysis, the discipline from that pre-med track, they're not actually wasted. They're still valuable, even if the path changes.
That's a really important reframe. It's not wasted, it's transferred.
Right. And you know, even leaving a job you actually liked for something better can still bring sadness.
Yeah.
And it's also pretty normal to feel a bit envious sometimes, looking at peers who stayed on the old path and seem to be hitting certain milestones. It's a really complex web of feelings.
It truly is. Okay, so we get why transitions are hard, and we understand the complex emotions involved. How do we actually get through it? Is there a map?
Well, not exactly a map, but the sources often describe a kind of framework, usually in 3 stages.
Okay, 3 stages. Well, stage 1.
Stage 1 is often called the long goodbye. This is really about actively letting go of what you're leaving behind.
Okay.
It's where you consciously process those emotions we just talked about, the sadness, the loss, the fear, the regret. You're acknowledging that something is ending.
So the key isn't to just power through or pretend you're okay.
Absolutely not. The sources are really strong on this. Acknowledge the pain. Don't ignore it. Don't suppress the grief. That just makes it stick around longer and makes it harder to move on.
So what do you do?
This is where you need honest self-reflection. Journaling pops up again and again in the sources as a really powerful tool here.
Try journaling.
It just helps get those swirling thoughts and feelings out of your head and onto paper, you know?
Right.
Helps you see what you're actually feeling and maybe why. It brings some clarity.
Okay. So you acknowledge, you process the letting go,
Yeah.
the long goodbye. What's next?
Then you step into what's often called the messy middle.
Okay, sounds
Uh-huh.
messy.
It usually is. This is the real heart of the transition. It's the phase where you're learning new things, adapting, trying to build new habits, navigating all that unknown.
Because you're not where you were, but you're not quite settled in the new thing yet.
Exactly. You're in that uncomfortable, kind of chaotic in-between space.
So what's key here?
Breaking things down, taking the big, overwhelming change and chopping it into smaller, more manageable steps. That helps you feel less swamped.
Okay.
And crucially, this is where you have to allow yourself to just feel the uncertainty we talked about. It's okay not to have all the answers right now.
Just sit with it.
Yeah, kind of. The idea is if you allow the uncertainty to be there without desperately fighting it or trying to force certainty, it'll eventually lessen. Like any emotion, it passes if you let it.
So trying too hard to control the uncertainty actually backfires.
Often, yes. Trying to control the uncontrollable or worrying nonstop to predict the future, it just drains you. Focusing on the present moment is really vital in the messy middle.
Because you can't know the future anyway.
Exactly. You're not a fortune teller. You have to try and let go of needing that perfect certainty and just anchor yourself in what's happening right now, today.
Okay, makes sense. And after the messy middle, hopefully something less messy.
Hopefully. You emerge into the new beginning. This is the phase where you start to really embrace the new you, the new situation. You start building stability again.
Does that mean it's suddenly easy? Like,
Hmm?
poof, you're comfortable.
Not necessarily, not right away. This phase also takes time and patience. You won't instantly feel like an expert in your new role or totally settled in your new life.
Right.
Remember that Reddit user who switched paths? They said eventually, with time and experience, they did become the expert again. But it was a process.
So the goal is finding that new path, that new situation that feels fulfilling again.
Yeah, something that maybe fills your cup, as they say, in a new or different way.
Okay, so we have the long goodbye, the messy middle, the new beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Within those stages, what are the actual strategies? What do the sources say we can do to cope and maybe even grow through this?
There's actually quite a lot. One of the most fundamental things is simply acknowledging and processing your emotions.
We touched on that in the long goodbye.
Right, but it's vital throughout. You have to accept that whatever you're feeling, sad, scared, angry, relieved, confused, it's okay. Allow yourself to feel it without judging yourself for feeling it.
Because you can't just avoid the tough feelings forever.
Exactly. You have to acknowledge the pain to move through it.
And journaling helps with that. Any other ways?
Absolutely. Journaling is great, but not the only way. You could express feelings creatively through art, music, or maybe channel that energy into volunteering for something you care about. That can also provide connection, which is helpful.
Okay, so feel the feelings. What about our thoughts? We know the brain goes to fear.
That leads right into the next strategy. Challenge your thinking and reframe. How we think about the transition massively impacts how we feel.
So catch the negative thoughts.
Yeah, and actively challenge them. Try to replace those really negative or unhelpful thought patterns with more balanced, realistic ones. It's sometimes called cognitive restructuring.
Like if you're thinking, this is a total disaster, I'm gonna fail.
Exactly. You'd stop and ask, okay, is that definitely true? What's the evidence? Is there another way to look at this? What's a more balanced perspective?
And reframing the whole situation.
Yes. Trying to see it less as just a threat and more as a challenge, maybe even an opportunity for growth. And constantly reminding yourself, uncertainty doesn't automatically equal disaster.
It ties back to letting go of needing certainty too, right?
Literally asking yourself, why do I need to be 100% certain? What are the pros and cons of that need? How much certainty do I really have in life anyway? Question, if you're automatically assuming the worst just because things are uncertain, how likely are those worst fares, really?
Okay, so acknowledge feelings, challenge thoughts. What else helps?
Take action and focus on the present. This is huge, especially when anxiety is high. Channel that restless, anxious energy into constructive action.
How?
by focusing intensely on the things you can actually control. Instead of getting overwhelmed worrying about the whole giant change, shift your focus to problem-solving the specific bits you can influence right now.
Like breaking it down, like you said, for the messy middle.
Precisely. Set small, clear, reachable goals for yourself each day or week. Ticking those off gives you a sense of accomplishment, a bit of purpose, some momentum, and anchoring yourself in here and now. Mindfulness practices can really help here, just observing your thoughts and feelings without getting totally swept away by worries about the future or regrets about the past.
That sounds incredibly grounding. What about other people? Does connection matter?
Oh, it's absolutely vital. Seek support and connect. Lean on your trusted friends, your family, and importantly, accept help when people offer it.
Even if you're usually the strong, independent type.
Especially then, maybe. Share how you're feeling, honestly. Use I statements. It makes you feel less alone and actually strengthens those connections. Support groups can also be amazing. Realizing others are going through similar things is so validating.
And professional help.
Yes. If you're feeling really overwhelmed or stuck, don't hesitate to talk to a therapist or a counselor. Healthy relationships give you that sense of belonging and support that acts like an anchor in rough seas. The sources are really clear. Leaning on others is a core part of resilience. It's not weakness.
Okay. And what about just looking after yourself?
Huge. Self-care is absolutely non-negotiable. Your body and mind are under extra stress during transitions, so the basics become critical.
Like sleep?
Yes, enough sleep, aim for 7+ hours. Eating nutritious food, regular exercise, it's a proven stress buster, like a natural anti-anxiety treatment.
Yep.
Practicing relaxation techniques that work for you, deep breathing, meditation, yoga, whatever it is. Being mindful of things that might ramp up your anxiety, like doom-scrolling news or social media. Avoiding unhealthy coping habits, too much booze, smoking. And actually scheduling breaks for your mind, time to just relax, daydream, maybe even nap.
It sounds like the fundamentals become even more fundamental when everything else is shifting.
They really do. And closely related to that is another key point. Be kind and compassionate to yourself.
Give yourself a break.
Exactly. This stuff is hard. Allow yourself some grace, some patience, some understanding. You're navigating something difficult. And interestingly, one source mentioned that helping other people can actually boost your own mood. So practicing kindness outward can feed you inward too.
That's nice. And one more thing, looking backward.
Yes. Learn from the past. Think about other big changes or challenges you faced before. How did you cope then? What helped you get through?
How does that help now?
It builds confidence. It reminds you that you have coped before, that you have inner resources. Sometimes writing about past struggles can show you patterns in how you cope and what you need. And remember those skills from old paths. They're not wasted. They're part of your toolkit.
Wow, okay. That's a really solid set of strategies. It feels like they all build towards this idea of resilience.
They absolutely do. Resilience, as the sources define it, is basically the ability to adapt well when faced with adversity, setbacks, major stress. It's that inner strength that helps you bounce back, or maybe bounce forward.
So it doesn't mean bad things don't affect you, or that you don't feel pain.
Not at all. Resilience doesn't make the problems vanish, but it helps you see past them, keep finding moments of enjoyment, and handle the stress more effectively so it doesn't completely derail you.
And it's something you can build.
Definitely. It takes time and practice, but these strategies we've talked about, they are concrete skills you can learn and strengthen to build your resilience muscle. And doing that can even help protect against developing longer-term mental health issues like chronic anxiety or depression.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
But sometimes, even with all these tools, a transition can just feel like too much, right?
Yeah.
When does it cross the line from normal difficulty to something more serious?
That's a really crucial question. The sources do point out that sometimes the stress of a major transition can trigger something more significant, like an adjustment disorder.
What's that?
It's basically a clinical condition where the emotional or behavioral symptoms in response to a stressful event are more intense or persistent than typically expected, and they significantly interfere with your daily life.
What kind of symptoms are we talking about?
Things like ongoing, pervasive sadness, overwhelming anxiety, serious sleep problems, real trouble concentrating that affects your work or relationships, withdrawing socially, losing interest in almost everything, or, importantly, having thoughts of harming yourself.
Okay. And if you're experiencing things like that,
Then it is absolutely essential to seek professional advice. If you feel like you're just not making progress, the coping strategies aren't enough, you feel completely overwhelmed, or you're struggling to function day to day, reaching out to a mental health professional, a therapist, counselor, doctor is the right move.
It's okay to ask for help.
It's more than okay. It's courageous. Help is available, it works, and asking for it is a sign of strength, not weakness. All the sources emphasize that.
So wrapping up this deep dive,
Mhm.
it's clear that navigating these big life changes is something we all face. And it means dealing with a whole mess of intense, often contradictory emotions, fear, loss, anxiety, sadness, maybe guilt, envy too. It's genuinely tough, and feeling like you're on an emotional roller coaster is, well, it's normal.
Yeah, completely normal. But the good news, the hopeful message from these sources, is that we're not powerless. By understanding why we feel this way, by actively allowing ourselves to process those feelings, challenging the thoughts that aren't helping, leaning on our people, taking care of ourselves, and drawing on our own past experiences, we can build that resilience. We
Yeah.
can move through these changes.
That seems like the key lesson, doesn't it? It's not about getting over it quickly or pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about moving through it. It involves that necessary long goodbye, really processing what's ending,
Mm-hmm.
getting through that often uncomfortable, messy middle as you adapt and figure things out,
Yeah, the messy bit.
and eventually finding your way to new beginning. It just takes time, patience, and maybe most importantly, a lot of self-compassion along the way.
Absolutely. And maybe here's a final thought to chew on. We talked about how that messy middle is often where the real adaptation, the learning, the growth happens. It feels uncomfortable, mainly because of the uncertainty, right? Not knowing how it'll all turn out.
Yeah.
But what if, instead of just trying to tolerate that uncertainty or rush through it as fast as possible, what if we could learn to see it differently? What if that messy, uncertain middle isn't just an obstacle course, but actually the most fertile, dynamic ground there is for discovering and becoming who you're truly meant to be next?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.